You're recording, right?
Yeah, it's starting. I'm just getting the levels.
That's my thing. I asked if we're recording.
Are you rolling?
Are we recording?
You're listening to La Clika podcast, and now here's Rick, Chris, Joel, and Bago.
No. You're listening to La Clika podcast live with Brian and Jamie Coakley. Yeah.
Is that yours? With your Oxycontins in there? With you. Oh, I'm not gonna cuss in front of my niece. Stay in school. Stay in school. Let me tell you about school, okay? I love you. Never trust a Gaborno that you're not related to. Oh, Chumley's here. Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's what I'm talking about right there. Familia Hunts. All right, let's do this. I'm gonna tell you a story about a little man. He did his life in the air in the garbage can. Until he met that woman, she gonna tear him apart. He needs a brand new life. Needs a brand new start. Baby, you got a problem. You got a problem. I got what you need. Brand new start. Life on the edge. Living it on the edge. Life on the edge. Homeboy come up to me, right? I said, what's up? I thought what you need. Just gonna say I got me a little problem. Well, be no Baba Tall. I need a brand new life. Need a brand new start. Just a little bit. Yes. Baby, you got a problem. You got a problem. I got what you need. Brand new start. Life on the edge. Living it on the edge. Life on the edge. Well, that dude come up to me, right? He pulled the hair over the eye, spread a spread head leg. He said, hi. He said, man, I got me a little problem. Take the big fall, man. If you could just let me 20 with an eye. I'll get out down the road, oh man. Maybe you got a problem. You got a problem. I know what you need. Brand new start. Motherfucking story about another little man. He did his life on the edge. Same old garbage can. Man himself another hyena. Man, he gonna fuck him up, man. He needs a brand new life, baby. It's a brand new start for it. Baby, you got a problem. You got a problem. I know what you need. Brand new start. Life on the edge. Life on the edge. Life on the edge.
Yeah, so what happened with that? So that's a track off an album that we haven't released yet. We've been kind of saving it because we had the documentary and we had the double album. We didn't want to like throw another album in right at the same time and just confuse everybody as to what was going on, but we knew when we were going to make the documentary that we needed to re-record the tracks because the original tracks were lost, the masters were gone. It was going to be a nightmare. So about 6 months of back and forth, we should go in a studio and do them right, and da-da-da-da-da. And, you know, Gabby was sick, everybody's got jobs and families, and I'm like, there's no way you guys are going to, it'll take too long. Like, we don't have that much time. We got to get the the tracks done. And you guys are best live. So we had done some stuff with another project of ours called Intersecting LA, where we basically rolled in, set up gear. We have a great producer, engineer that knows how to do this, and we tracked the rehearsals. We ran through the set twice and recorded everything, everything mic'd up separately, but essentially live. And then we did a show that night. We played 2 sets. So we had 4 different
versions of the same songs
and
from the whole night.
He was able to cut it all together and edit it together and make a cool live record out of it. So I said, I think we should try something like that. And then you guys can come in and do overdubs or whatever. So that's what these what you just listened to was. Those were the original live recordings. The guys showed up for this show that they were going to play that night at Fusion in Huntington Beach, and they got there at 10 a.m. and we mic'd everything, and they played 20 tracks all day basically before the show.
Right. Well, that's what the album that came out, the vinyl, the double vinyl. That's the whole day.
Oh wow.
Doing those songs on that same stage, and then this album is just the show that happened later that same night on the same gear at the same place, but it was just like
everything was mic'd up, so we were like,
it was all ready to go, already mic'd up from the recording sessions, so we just left
track it all.
Yeah, I've listened to all your albums. I mean, like all of them. And as far as the sonics go, I mean, this is just a night and day difference. I mean, this is like, I could compare this to like Van Halen 1984, how it captured the live essence of the music. And it really did. It really like you were there. Like you close your eyes and I mean, it sounds like a live album.
Yeah.
It sounds and it just, the other ones just didn't do you guys justice. I mean, it just sounded a little lackluster.
Yeah.
But this album is just completely like a kick in the head from the first song and the slapping back of the head to the last song. You know?
Right. And this like live album. The live album that we're going to release like in about a week, that it's even more raw than that, as you could just hear.
Oh, yeah.
And it's got everything that Gabby's in, like, 'cause instead of trying to sanitize it and go, okay, this track's here, this track, let's cut out all the crap that Gabby says for an hour, because sometimes Gabby goes off on tangents, he used to, right? And this has it all uncut, just complete Gabbiness all the way through. So it's awesome. It's really cool.
Yeah, well, what happened was we did the tracks all day, and then we had them just record the show, and then we were listening to it, and I was like, we should just release this as it is, almost like a comedy record, back in the day when you'd have like a really cool comedy record, because so much of the live show for the Tramps was Gabby's antics. Good dog.
Let me in. I'm gonna bark until you let me in.
Anyway, so it was so much of a live show was just and all the crazy things that Gabby would say from stage, and people talked about that when we were doing the documentary, that he would draw you in and he'd talk to people in the crowd, and everybody felt like they were part of the show in a way. So I was like, it would be really cool, I think, to just release this, and we're only going to do it as digital release, but start to finish. No edits, like he said. Every word that Gabby uttered from the beginning of the set to the end of the set is there. And we're going to put markers, so if you want to scroll to your favorite song or whatever, you can. But when you press play, it's just going to play like a live show would from start to finish.
There's truly nothing else out there like that. I mean, it is completely like cutthroat original, man, in every sense of the word.
Totally agree. Yeah. Totally agree.
And what I was going to say too, the seeds of how we recorded that actually started in 1992. We went in to do Tombstone Radio because we knew our first record didn't sound right. You know what I mean? We were like, it's okay, but it's just not really what we were looking for. We went in to do Tombstone Radio. The record label goes, come into the studio, set up, and we're going to do a pre-production. And we were kind of like, what's that? We didn't even know what that meant, Right. Yeah. We just set up in a room at the same studio we did our records, but everything was in the same room. Mm-hmm. And we jammed it out, the whole album live. And then they're like, okay, listen to these tracks and pick the songs and stuff. And those tracks ended up, then we go back in and re-record it all and fuck it all up and make it too sanitized, right? That cassette tape sounded bitchin'. And Johnny and I would just be like, why does this tape obviously the vocals weren't right on it. You know what I mean? Things were wrong about it, but it was like, why does this one have the power? And we realized over the years that it was like that bleed of having, you know, you try to mic you close mic the guitar and you close mic the drums, but you have them in the same room and there's bleed.
Yeah.
And that bleed gives it just like a way more power. It's something about it. You know?
Yeah.
That's when it's too structured.
You know what? It's like having a Richard Pryor live album and not having him say motherfucker. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's got to, motherfucker.
So we don't confuse you guys, because like I said, so the live record that we're talking about, where we, you know, didn't cut out any of Gabby's antics. That's actually, Gabby wanted to have it be called Cadillac Tramps Off Their Walkers, because they were getting so old.
And he wanted a walker with like all the mod shit, all the mirrors and the
Stickers.
just all the crap that they put on those mod scooters. And
a walker like that.
Yeah.
So we actually, we weren't able to get like a photograph of that, but I have a great artist that drew it up for me, and we decided to do it like an old punk rock flyer, just black and white with everything handwritten, like a show flyer, because it is a show flyer.
Perfect. Yeah, totally.
And it's got this, and then it's got this walker with all of these rear view mirrors and stickers and everything plastered all over it. But that's the one that's not released yet. We're getting ready to release that for the holidays, and that's Cadillac Tramps Off Their Walkers, and it's only going to be available for digital. But we're going to make the artwork available too, so you could put it up like an old school flyer if you want to have it and put it with your collection. But then the other one that we were talking about, where Brian was talking about, you know, setting everybody up in the room and tracking the basics together so that the energy and the bleed is there. That was the double vinyl album that we released middle of October, it's called Don't Go. And that's more of the studio quality. So the basic tracks were recorded live, but then they did go back in and overdub some guitars, and Gabby re-sang all of his vocals. So it's got a little bit more of the polished sound. But like you said,
Still
it definitely
power.
captured the power and energy of the Tramps. Like
it was
nobody had
very,
done
very
before.
powerful. From when, how did the dialogue get started for doing the documentary and the double album and the live album? How did the ideal? Whose idea was it to get it going?
Well, Brian had been kind of complaining over the years, you know, that the Tramps were really beginning to be forgotten in the Orange County music scene. You know, the OC Weekly would do the best 10 punk rock bands out of Orange County, and the Tramps wouldn't be there, or the best guitar players to come out of Orange County, and Johnny and Brian would not be there. And he was like, you know, because the music is lost, we're going to be forgotten. And he's like, I really wish somebody would do something about this. And, you know, we kick it around a little bit. And then they played with Tiger Army at the Grove. And Gabby had surgery on his eye because he's having complications from diabetes, and just, you know, he was falling apart. And he'd had surgery on his eye like the day before, and of course Gabby would show up and play no matter what. And he that was the first time that I saw him where I was like, oh my God. He is really not going to be here for much longer, and if anybody's going to do anything, we need to do it now. And there was nothing. There was no music. There was no video. There was nothing. So I had been kind of working a little bit in production, and I'm a storyteller in a lot of ways anyway. So I was like, "Fuck it, let's do it." And Brian's like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Well, you do realize that we're going to lose like $100,000 on this, and it's going to be a ton of work, and we'll probably hate each other. But at the end of the day, not just for us, but for the band and for the fans, and then also, you know, Gabby has a son that survived him, and I was like, I really want to make sure that his son grows up being able to see his dad and how much his dad loved him and all the beautiful things that he gave to the world, even though he's a complicated person, that there was so much good and beauty in him as well. So those were kind of like the main three things. We were like, if we can make it and the band's happy, and we can make it and the fans are happy, and Presley will have something he can put in and watch when he's missing his dad and see that love there, then whatever, it'll be worth it. So
yeah. And
we just kind of jumped into it.
We just started. I mean, it was like, let's just start. And then it would be, Jamie would say, I think I need to buy another camera, or I think I need to, I can't monitor off this camera, because we were using like those 60D Canon 60Ds, you know?
Yeah.
And the thing, one of them would shut off every like 15 minutes or whatever it'd be. If the interview went too long, it'd be like, oh, hold on, my camera shut off in the middle of it. And it was just, you know, she did all that, the cinematography, but like, you know, that first sizzle that was made, that was going around it was like a teaser thing. That was made as much to convince the other Tramps to go along with it as it was to get for the Kickstarter and all that. It ended up being great to help get money for that, but they didn't at first. They were just like, yeah, that sounds like a cool idea. I don't know. And then when Jamie would like try to film them talking, and they would just shut up and turn their head.
They were total jerks. You know, I think people, when you guys are musicians, so, you know, people are always going to say they're going to do stuff. They were not super stoked on it. And I'm Brian's wife. So, and we actually had a guy come up to us at a show that we played a couple months ago, and he was like, hey, I ought to talk to you. And I'm like, okay. He's like, I heard through the grapevine that Brian Coakley's wife was going to make a documentary about the Cadillac Tramps. And I was like, fuck, that's going to suck. It's going to be all about Brian Coakley. And he's like, and for like a year and a half, I was just ready to hate it. And my wife made me go to a screening, and he's like, man, I got to tell you, you did such a good job. You totally captured the Cadillac Tramps, and it's not all about your husband, although he's in there, and that's cool. But he was like, thank you, I really appreciate it. But I think that maybe the Tramps were thinking that it would be only Brian's point of view because I was Brian's wife, and so there was some trepidation about that. So we basically had to make that sizzle, and we had everybody over to the house, and we're like, okay, this is what I'm talking about, so I could prove to them that what my vision was and that I could actually do it, that I wasn't just talking shit. So, and they were crying.
Yeah, everybody that we got done, what do you guys think? And there was, you know, because that was also to get them to sign their releases and all the crap, you know, and they were just like, where do I sign? Everybody had tears in their eyes.
You had everybody. I mean, even I was.
Yeah.
After watching it, I was.
Well, yeah, the movie, well, then the other thing was the movie actually got made, and Gabby gets his copy, and we send him a copy, and he watches it like by himself when he's like at home, just kind of lonely at home watching it, and didn't like the movie at all. And it was like, what's the matter, dude? What do you think? And then so he was kind of stirring up stuff from behind, because I think too, they thought it was going to be a like rah piece about the Tramps, like this is how great we were and this is how awesome we were, and this, but instead of having like the warts and all approach where, yeah, there was some shit that went down, we disagreed on stuff, we had our issues, so he just kind of felt like it wasn't that cool. And then we had that first screening that he got to go to while he was still alive, thank God, because after that screening, complete flip of script. He freaking loved it. Kept like he'd have me over and he'd be like, "Yeah, man, that just that helped our legacy." And you know, he was like, it completely changed his mind. But at first, he kind of thought like, "What's my kid gonna think? He's gonna think I'm a bad guy." And you know, it looks like it's saying it was my fault we broke up. And I go, no, it didn't really say that. It was kind of saying like, Johnny and I were going this way, and you were going this way, and we all went 3 different ways, and totally. And then Adrian from No Doubt says it: if you're not all on the same page, dysfunction, and that's totally exactly what happened, you know. And I didn't like some of the parts. Like I was like, man, Jamie, you're making me look like a dick. There was way other, because she does like
you don't need me to do that for you.
You know, somebody does a 2-hour interview, and then you say a lot of shit, and then it's like, that's not the shit I wanted you to fucking put in there, man.
It's the magic of editing.
Yeah, exactly.
We go through the same thing when we're doing podcasts.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, it was. I wanted to tell a higher story so that if you didn't give a shit about punk rock, if you didn't care about the Orange County music scene, if you'd never heard of the Cadillac Tramps, you could watch that movie and be moved by it and get something out of it. I wanted it to try and help the Tramps reach a larger audience. So if I had just done like a traditional straight, you know, ABCD happen in the world of this band, then I felt that it would limit that story. So I really looked for the higher themes of brotherhood, redemption, addiction. And I had the opening sequence is Brian going to visit Gabby in the hospital. Yes. And that actually came to me in a dream. I didn't know how to open the film, and I had a dream about it, and I told Brian, and he was like, yeah, that could really work. And then we asked Gabby, and Gabby, you know, he was machismo. He didn't want anybody to see him hurting or
Vulnerable.
weak or vulnerable. It was really, really hard for him, and we begged and pleaded for about 6 months, and then he finally let us come in and film some of the hospital stuff. And I would be like, well, if it's me, then I just won't go. I'd be like, Brian, when you go visit him, ask him if you can shoot some stuff on the iPhone. I don't even care. We'll use it. And he would sabotage every time. Brian would go, I'm going to film a little of you. And then he would say, like, the most racist, the most homophobic.
He would blurt out some shit that you couldn't even put on in an X-rated movie, man. It would be like, oh, fuck.
Brian would come back, and I'd be like, did you get some footage? And he would be like, yeah. And
It's really
he'd show it to me,
funny.
like, Gabby was such a big, strong personality, and he, could really intimidate people, and so it was really hard to get him to do anything that he didn't want to do. And we just stayed really persistent, and finally, by the grace of God. And that's, those points where you see him in the hospital are really key points to keep that higher story going and remind you of the gravity of the situation and why everybody was there in that time. And without that footage, it would have not been nearly as impactful. So we were grateful he finally let us, but it was not easy. It really wasn't. But we're so thankful that we have it now. It's almost like he's almost been gone. He'll passed a year in January, the beginning of January. And Brian and I talk about this all the time because we've been working this whole year. It doesn't feel like he's gone for us. We see him all the time. We hear his voice all the time. And there was a little after the movie came out in the middle of October, Brian kind of hit a little bit of a sad time for him because it really felt like for him he was staying busy the whole time. He hadn't really processed, and he got really depressed and kind of sad for a couple weeks there. Just the reality of, this is the end of the Cadillac Tramps, something I've been doing for 30 years with my brothers, and Gabby's gone, and that's been kind of rough.
A long time
for sure.
This is from a review that I typed up after I saw the movie. Life on the Edge is such a phenomenal doc. I think Jamie and Brian did a phenomenal job putting this together. This doc was every bit as emotional as it was humorous. It was an accurate depiction of the trials and tribulations that a band goes through and overcomes. It was real, it was raw, it was truthful, it was heartfelt and generous. That's what I got out of it, and it definitely, you find yourself straying away, from time to time, and it definitely puts things back in a perspective, especially if you yourself have been through some traumatic experiences in your life. So phenomenal job, I thought.
Indeed. I mean, I like watching documentaries. That's my thing. And one of my favorite documentaries was Some Kind of Monster, because I hated Metallica so much. They made them look like such divas, and this automatically, and not because you guys are here, but this just like took the place of that to number one, because you don't have to be a Cadillac Tramps fan to love this documentary. In some cases, it might make you a Cadillac Tramps fan. Turn you on to all that. I mean, it's just such an amazing story. I mean, after 30 years of being together, how did you get all that storytelling into one thing? Because I remember reading something that you said that this wasn't the story of the Cadillac Tramps, it was a story of the Cadillac Tramps.
Correct, yeah.
How did you piece this together to put in the film?
Well, it was Jamie, first of all, and Leah Gallagher. Leah Gallagher is a friend of ours that has always been super cool and helpful and goes the extra 9 yards every time we ask for any kind of help. But she actually watched every single interview. So everybody did like an hour and a half.
She watched
There's
about
52.
60 to 70 hours of footage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so she watched it all, and she typed it all out. She transposed it all. Transcribed. So there's 3 binders that are like this thick, and it's every interview from everybody. Because things were revealed that we didn't, you go in, you think, okay, I know the story of the Tramps, I was there. And then all these other people say all this crap that I wasn't there when that happened. And I'm like, oh shit. There's all this stuff. So she actually had to go through and pick a story, basically, because it could have taken 2 or 3 different turns, or too many turns, or just been like then this happened, then this happened.
You've seen that documentary where it just rambles on and on and on. We started with every good story has a beginning, middle, and end. So I asked Brian, okay, so if you're thinking about your 30 years with the Tramps, beginning, middle, and end, how would you approach that? So we started with, what was it like what happened, what's it like now. So that was like our, first,
Your format.
second, and third act, basically. That was the really raw structure. And then we just started doing interviews, and then I looked for themes. If it came up in one interview and it was a great story, but I didn't have anybody else to support it or talk about it, I had to leave it on the floor, because a documentary is not just one person talking about something. You want people to corroborate.
Corroborate.
So,
What she said.
yeah. So I noticed as I did the interviews that there were themes. There were things that everybody said. And, one of the things was, wow, it was so cool that they were sober together. Like, that blew our minds. And a lot of sober people saying, it saved my life to have a place to go where I knew there were going to be other sober people and I could have fun. And that came up a million times. So that was obviously an important part of the story. Even though the Tramps originally didn't want to be known as a sober band, it wasn't how they started off. And they resisted it at times being labeled that. It turned out to be one of their greatest strengths when you think about a lasting legacy. I mean, people say, oh, that music changed my life, but the music saved people's lives, like, legitimately, and a lot of them, so that was really cool. But yeah, so Leia transcribed all the interviews, and then I had to go through them and organize them and, into a 4-act structure, and I literally went through, those 3 binders 7 or 8 times and highlighted common themes, and then pulled time code, and then I put the time codes together into an actual script, and then my editor went through all the footage and pulled the footage, and then we compiled that into, it was about 4.5 hours. And then from there you just
Start editing.
that doesn't look as good, that person didn't say it as well, and just keep
You try to do that.
taking stuff out until you have something that really works.
They did that cool thing where, Ace will be talking about something and then somebody else finishes that same sentence because it came up so many times
It flowed well.
that other people had it in their interviews. Right, exactly. And, there was like sub trails it could have gone down, like Mike Bohm, the critic from the LA Times, he says, I want to say something. And he really wanted to say this in his interview, and it didn't make the movie because there was nobody else that brought it up. But he was like, back in those days, the Cadillac Tramps were actually this multi-racial band. They had white dudes and Hispanic dudes and stuff, and they were in this band together, and it was total harmony, and it was like this total binding force. And then because the weird thing was, when we first met Gabby, when you guys have that thing where it's like, I have Hispanic in me, but it's like I've always been culturally white. Gabby grew up in Westminster. His family was like split down the middle, and so he kind of was almost like ashamed of his Hispanic roots at first. When we first met him, first thing he told me was that he was Italian. Because Gaborno, right? He's like, yeah, I'm Italian. And it was like, we watched him totally just become Mr. Gabby, like embrace it, and the Manic Hispanic thing brought that around a lot too, with working with Steve Soto and just going like, you know what, let's just embrace that part of ourselves. And then obviously other people embraced it too and felt good. It made people feel good about who you are. Like, take who you are, be proud of who you are, and just be it and totally take it to the limit, And we had that in our band, and it was like not something that made the doc, but it would have been, if enough people would have said it, it would have,
Yeah, Mike Bohm, he was a music critic for the LA Times and loved the Tramps, and he said, you guys, I noticed it, but you guys didn't notice it.
We didn't
in
even
Orange
notice.
County, where there's so much, perceived racial strife and, racism against Mexicans and Latinos, and here you guys were like, nobody even noticed. It was no big deal. And Brian told me, when I first met Mike, he wasn't Gabby, he was Mike, and he was Italian. And over the process of the 30 years,
He became.
and things changing,
like, what?
he was able to embrace his heritage more. And then,
Hold up. Like, what? What do you mean?
Then all of a sudden he was tripping on his Ruka.
Yeah. All of a sudden, he was doing drive-by smiles and tripping on his Ruka.
just when you listen to the track that we opened with, he's using all kinds of Spanglish and Orle, and he really embraced that, and he did make people feel proud to be Mexican or to be Latinos, and he was one of the first to really do that. And Alex from Alex's bar, talked to us like maybe 6 months ago. It was right around the time Gabby passed away, and he just had like a velvet painting commissioned of Gabby that's up on the wall in Alex's bar and everything. But for him, he said, Gabby totally changed my whole life. He's like, I was always ashamed to be Mexican. Wow. Then until I saw Gabby on stage, and he was so funny, and I was so proud of him. And he
made it look cool.
He was embracing it. He was like, it was the first time where I was like, fuck yeah, I'm a Mexican. And he was, and I wish that had come up sooner, and I wish that it had come up more, because that would have been a really cool. But again, that's a whole nother. I could do like a whole nother
section.
Documentary just on that impact and
Part
how
2,
cool
the
that
Mexican
is.
years.
Well, Gabby used to we drew like a lot of Hispanic people. And Gabby used to call, he'd go, oh, the Taco Billies are coming, And like, it would be like, it's funny, but it's like the wrong person saying that.
Set up a taco truck outside.
Actually, when Rick and I started this, he told me, well, I'm going to start printing shirts again, because he used to do T-shirts.
Right.
And I want you to think of a name for our print company, and I want you to think of a name for this. And I was listening to Mijo Goes to Junior College in the shower. And that's when I thought of the name. I'm like, hey, you know what? Let's call it the Click, like Clika.
Yeah.
So this name is inspired by Gabby.
That's killer. That's
that.
great.
And I think that legacy will live not just through the Tramps, but also through Manic Hispanic for sure.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to do the live show Uncut, because you really hear some of that come through that you don't get on the actual official studio record.
Yeah.
The antics and that flavor is not there as much. So
one of my favorite Traps album is the live album. I mean, I really love it. The last time I saw you guys is when we played in Rocket for the Reunion 2016.
Yeah.
That's the last time I saw you guys.
Right.
As the Cadillac Tramps. And it always takes me back to that. I'd always relive it through that album.
The one that's on BYO? Yeah, the BYO.
Yeah.
that's a great record too. And that one actually doesn't have Johnny playing on it. That's got Mad Dog, but he was great. He did a lot of good work, and that was a really good. I think I'm biased. Next to the one that we just made, that one I think definitely captures them better than any of the other ones.
Oh,
before.
absolutely.
That's
Well,
for sure.
They're different animals, because that record came about with Chris Martin, who briefly managed the Tramps, and he was friends with all of us. But the idea, it was a real similar idea. It was like the Tramps never captured that power of live, so let's do a live record. But that's like a live record that's been re-recorded, a bunch of the stuff.
Yeah, and a little overdub in there.
A little overdubs and all that stuff. So this one that's coming out is raw as fuck. It's just like the straight shit. There's one guitar player on this side, there's one on that side, there's one vocal here, there's one vocal, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we didn't know.
But yeah, I like that record too. It's good. I like it.
But this just hearing the Life on the Edge on that live album, I mean, you could hear the sweat coming down. You get that feeling that you're getting your ass kicked in the front.
Yeah, you can
trying to hold on.
You can picture the shitty lighting and the lights beating down on you and
the red glow,
the stale smell of patchouli and old beer.
Well, it wasn't even in a
stank
cool
in the crowd.
Yeah. It was at that Fusion place in Huntington Beach, which was not like a cool place. It was like adult Chuck E. Cheese or something. It was weird. It was a weird place.
It ended up sounding amazing, though. The room, we couldn't have asked for a better room. It ended up being a great room to track. And we just got so lucky on that because we threw a fit. We were like, Scott Tucker was promoting it. We're like, we're doing this, Scott. And he's like, they don't want nobody's here at 10 a.m. And they're like, we need to be here at 10 a.m.
Well, we got to say thanks to Scott Tucker because actually he made it happen. He made the sound man show up. They ran everything was set up and up at 10 o'clock. And we didn't, they were so freaking mad at us. The manager and everybody were just like sitting there and they're like, when are they going to get out of here? Because to pack up out of there, it was recording gear and regular gear. So we didn't get out of there till like 2 a.m. and they were expecting us out of there by like 1 at the latest. And it was one of those like, everyone in the staff. This is really bad radio. They were doing this. Nobody sees what I'm doing, but I'm making a face. And if you saw it, you'd be bummed out.
Yep, it's kind of crazy. What else?
I don't know. Let them ask me. No.
Well, we got more questions.
So, Brian, tell us about how Santos y Sinners began.
Oh, well, okay. Okay, that's an interesting one because what happened when Gabby got really sick, he had Manic, he had the Tramps, and then he had Flocka Goo Goo, okay?
Right.
So basically, he didn't get that much disability. So he was like, he couldn't work. He was way too sick to work. Didn't get too much disability, not enough to survive. So it was like trying to get like the Tramps to play all the time, right?
Right.
And we played some stupid shows, really. And like Johnny and the other guys, some of those guys would just be like, I can't do that one. And then you'd see us do a show, and it would be like Dave Stookin would play, or whoever would fill it, because Gabby would just be like, man, we need to play it. Can we just get fill-ins? I had a kind of, I don't even know if it was intuition or what, but I knew that my time with Gabby was going to be limited. So I was like, whatever show you book, I'll play it. I wasn't ever arguing like, no, I don't want to do that show or that show. But there was only so many.
You kind of took your ego out of it and just were like, I'm just going to show up and be present while I can.
That was our hang. I mean, we didn't holidays and stuff. I didn't really see him after the first few when I knew him. So it was like our hang was music. And so he calls me and he goes, I want to do this band. Come over. I'm writing some songs. And at first it was kind of like he was writing these folk songs, and he wanted to do like, and it was cool stuff. It was just he wanted to do like he would jokingly call it age-appropriate music for us. It was just mellow music, like a couple Elvis Costello covers, and he wanted to just do a mellow, cool kind of a band. And then he was living with Evie, and he started talking to Evie about doing a blues band. And so the mellow thing turned into a blues band. And then they were talking about who should we get? And Gabby would do this classic thing where you'd go, what drummer can we get? Let's get somebody like, I already called Jim. He would just, so Evie, he was talking to Evie, and he's like, what guitar player should we get? We should get some shredder blues guy and he already called Coakley, So Evie was like stuck with me, It was like, they were like, okay, Coakley's doing it, I guess, whatever Gabby says. And then, we started doing it, and it was fun. And but at first we didn't have a name, and EV does this band that he calls the Atomic Road Kings, and Gabby calls me and he goes, EV wants to call it the Atomic Road Kings, and I was like, oh, he already does the Atomic Road Kings. That's already a thing. We need our own thing. And then we were texting back and forth, and it was like, I go, we got to do something that's like, take advantage of what we are, man. It's like we're Cheech and Chong of music or whatever, It's like, let's be like the Santos and the Sinners or whatever, And we were texting back and forth, and it just came about that way, that the name came out like that. But it was really, truthfully, just to have another band for Gabby to play more times during the month and get a little bit more dough. Really, it really came down to like, that's his best avenue to make a few bucks here and there. Extra, and then we'll make some shirts, and he can sell those and keep the dough from that kind of a thing. So it was just a revenue thing, really.
And Eric Von Herzen, or Evie, is this amazing harmonica player. He's really fantastic. So having him in the band was awesome. And then Gabby sang lead, and they did like classic blues covers, but then they Gabby-ified it, They kind of punk rocked him out a little bit, rocked him up a little. Brian came in, and then Jim Monroe on drums. And they just, let's play, help Gabby make some money. And Brian would be like, I don't know if I want to do this, but I want to see Gabby, and I know time's limited. So he'd like roll out there.
I love it now.
Well, and then towards the end, Gabby specifically said to Brian, like, I know you're not going to be able to keep doing the Tramps, but I want you to keep making music, and I think you guys should keep doing Santos.
Yeah, and he said the same thing to Evie. So it was like, should we keep going? It's like, it was kind of weird. And then, should we get a new singer? I don't know. Who are we going to put someone else out there? And it's like, here's the new Gabby guy, or whatever. That wouldn't work. Yeah. So we just kind of morphed. And having Chris Smith on bass and EV on harmonica puts us like automatically in like the real blues dudes, what I call
Right.
the real guys, you know. And then me and Jim Monroe were like, we're here too. Hi.
You make it cool.
Yeah, I bring my punk rock baggage to the party. So
Nobody does the freak on stage at a blues show like we do.
How far do you plan, or would you hope Santos E Sinners would go?
oh, for Santos. I don't know. Nothing bigger than the best blues band on earth. I'd be cool with that.
That's a very humble outlook.
Right.
Yes.
I don't know.
He's loving doing it, but he also goes to me, he's like, I'm not ready to just play blues. I still want to rock. Like, I still got that fire in me. I want to tear shit up. I want to break stuff.
Yeah.
Any projects in the work besides Santos?
That's what that's what she's talking about. I kind of am. It's weird. In my mind, I have a total project together. Unfortunately, it's mostly in my mind. There's songs and there's guys that want to play with me, and it's like I'm getting approached by guys here and there, and I'm sending them some tracks. Here, what do you think of these tracks? Oh, those are cool. You know, we're doing. It's at that stage, you know. But it's one of those things where I don't have a ton of time. People always say that I don't have a ton of time, but really, I mean, I work. I got a regular job that I do. I got a company I run.
And finishing the documentary, I mean, we really were working all year,
And that
every
was
extra
another
hour
job.
to get the movie out.
Yeah.
So that just has only been like a month since we released it, where we're like, oh, we might have half a day this week that we
Yeah.
don't have scheduled that we can actually focus on something else. But he's been playing a lot. It's been really nice.
I've been writing a lot of stuff.
He's on his guitar a lot.
Something's gonna come popping out of here sooner or later. But you know, with Santos, it's like a baby steps. We're going to record some tracks. We decided that we want to do some originals, so we wrote some originals. We're going to record them. And we're just going to take it like one step at a time. You know,
Right.
I try to not play the regular blues places, you know, because it's like our best show that we did that I thought was like our best show was that opening up for Throw Rag at Alex's Bar. It was totally sold out. It was crazy. We played right. It was us between the Pushers and Throw Rag, and it worked. You know what I mean? And it was like, we're a blues band? Is that really what? I don't think we're just a regular blues band if that worked like that, but it did, and it was like, okay, that's what Gabby had always envisioned. It was be more like, you know, like the Red Devils live at the King kind of thing, where they could play with anybody. They could go to a festival and it would be like Metallica and the Red Devils and Fish, you know, or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like you don't care. So.
Is there any people you listen to right now to be inspired to write?
Yeah, there's a ton. I go backwards a lot. I go to my old like go-tos, but I've been listening to some blues, obviously, just because I'm trying to know what's going on. But like,
He loves the Black Keys.
I
He's
love
been
the
around
Black
Black
Keys.
this year.
Excellent.
I love the guys that push it. So like Black Key guy, you could tell that guy's a roots guitar player and he's a roots singer. But then they push it to this place where it's like, oh, there's pop, but it's still gritty and it's still raunchy. I like Jack White a lot. I like a lot of stuff Jack White does. I love the sounds. I love the pushing it to the limit there.
Nice.
Cage the Elephant is probably like one of my favorite kind of what I would call a new band, even though they're not that new. But they're freaking great. If you ever get to see them live, they're amazing.
Any BB King in there?
Oh, there's a lot of BB King in there for sure. I mean, literally, if you look at my iPod, it's like mostly old crap like that. But Jimmy Cena from Harless Sweetwater's band, he came up to us one night and he goes, "You guys are like the Paul Butterfield band or whatever. Man, you guys are rad." And I was like, "We are? Cool." And I thought, I guess that's a compliment. I don't know. But then I went and started listening to Paul Butterfield, and I was like, fuck, we kind of are. Our version of Mojo is actually a lot like Paul Butterfield band's version. So
That's good.
I like it a lot.
At least you're getting good responses from it.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
You're catching people's ears. And they're like, wow, okay. That's what I
Yeah,
like to hear.
people love it. I think it's the combination of, the classic blues songs are impossible not to like unless you just are really destroying them. But then they everything Brian does, he like kind of puts it through his little fucked up filter, and it comes out awesome on the other end. And he's really good at, can never play anything straight. He used to, when we were in Wax Apples, I'd be like, we got to do this cover. He's like, I don't do covers. I'm like, what do you mean you don't do covers? He's like, I write too many songs. I don't need to do other people's songs.
Plus, I didn't know how to play covers.
Yeah.
I was really like shitty at it. I'd sit there trying to learn how to play a Zeppelin song for a year, and then Mad Dog would go, "You're playing that riff wrong." It's just like, oh fuck.
And actually, that's not a bad influence right there right now.
Yeah,
because they're very bluesy.
Oh, for sure. I love Zeppelin.
I would love to hear them. I like to get their background, what they're influenced by. They always talk about the blues.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's just almost like the rock group. Blues.
Yeah.
I just saw a documentary at the Lemley last week. It's Rumble. The Indians
Link
that rocked
Ray.
the world. Have you guys seen that? It's the history of rock and roll and American Indian influence and the American Indian sound on rock and roll. And it talks about
Chris.
If you haven't seen it,
We're all looking at him.
First Nation.
Yeah.
Well, I'm about as American as apple pie and $1 Chinese food, so like those Chinese food. I don't know how many Chinese food places in Orange County they have, but we have the ones here. They sell donuts and Chinese food out of the same place.
And boba.
And boba.
You can't find a straight Chinese food place anymore unless you're on Pico Boulevard in West LA. I'm like, the Jewish people must really love Chinese food because it's all like Jewish places and Chinese, but it's not like Chinese and sushi.
Because that's
it's
what
like legit old school
because
Chinese.
that's what they eat for Christmas.
It's the only place that's open.
It's the only place that's open.
But if you get a chance,
And Thanksgiving, I could vouch for that.
Yeah.
if you get a chance to watch this documentary, it's really good, and the beats that are in rock and roll, and they talk about how natives influenced blues, and a lot of it was because of the mixing of the races. A lot of Native Americans were mixing with slaves or newly freed slaves and intermingling and making babies, and a lot of the what we would call African American music sounds are actually also Native American. The vocal patterns and all of that kind of stuff.
Check it out.
So it's pretty interesting. But they, Led Zeppelin obviously, and the Beatles, and oh gosh.
Well, Jimmy Page's
Who's the
big
other
thing was
big
Rumble
band?
by
Rolling
Dorothy Gray.
Stones.
Yes, the Rolling Stones all
The Yardbirds, yeah.
talk about blues as a big influence, but it's actually a lot of
And
Native
jazz.
American music too.
Yeah,
so
and jazz.
that's really cool.
Bonham.
I just found a new respect for Chris.
Thanks.
Yeah, seriously.
See, these are all childhood friends, so growing up being not Mexican but Indian has been very traumatizing.
Yeah, right.
He needs a hug, guys.
Yeah, I'll get a hug later.
And he's feather, not dot. Feather.
Yeah.
Feather.
Yeah, feather Indian, not dot Indian.
That's what he always. When I first met him, that's what he told me. He goes, "I'm Indian, I'm feather, not dot."
Feather, not dot.
You're like, what?
Feather, not dot.
Well, at least you're not Italian.
Actually, I was Sicilian when I grew up.
There you go. There you go.
You didn't notice you were sitting next to Kim Thale from Soundgarden?
That's a good one, though. I'm going to keep that feather, not dot. I'm going to.
Is that the first time you ever heard that?
It is. It is.
How is that even possible? You just weren't paying attention, honey. That's been around forever.
He was making music.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting to me though? When I was from 1 to 2.5 years old, we actually lived on a Cree Indian village in the Northwest Territory. My mom taught school, and it was like a Indian village where the hunters still went out and hunted, and they'd bring the kill back, and everybody in the village would come and take their part, and they would leave the best pieces for the hunters, and it was like legit. My mom had like amazing respect for Native Americans the whole time I was growing up. So to me, they were always on a pedestal. Like it's almost like I'm just figuring out like, oh, in the documentary they were talking about a lot of, if you were a dark-skinned Native American, you would rather be thought of as black than Native American for a while in America because it was actually better to be a black person in America than it was to be a Native person.
I told these guys that because my dad changed his last name to his stepfather's last name because he couldn't find work with an Indian surname.
Yeah, it's really. I mean, we know this, but then you don't. It's you kind of think of the cowboy and Indian days, and then there's this whole period of our history after that it was
the
really,
cinema really influenced the way people looked at Indians, especially when cinema first started. The cowboy and Indian movies are like the first movies to come out, and so that's what my dad said exactly that it was better to be black, and I couldn't pass for black. My birth certificate says Caucasian on it. Yeah. And so he had an Indian surname, so he had to change it to his stepfather's name because, back then he was doing work at 14 years old. So he just switched over to Perez. Sounds a lot better than an Indian surname.
Yeah, it's better to be.
Do you know what that surname was?
Cave.
And Chris.
That doesn't sound that bad.
It sounds cool.
Nowadays, it's like that wouldn't even matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that the reason your dad was a big jazz fanatic?
Mm-hmm.
Because of that?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
And plus, he worked out like I said, the Brown Derby and
the
Moulin Rouge. Yeah.
No, he has a lot of roots in jazz. Me and him always talk about jazz.
Yeah.
And it's little by little I start getting to know more about his, his father's history, and it amazes me.
My father was a big fat guy, and he worked like every slave job in the kitchen, in the restaurant industry, and but he's met a lot of jazz people like Coltrane. He met all all the greats, and somewhere in my house there's a picture of I think it's Peter Lawford, Sammy Davis Jr., and Frank Sinatra, and they're lighting my dad's cigar.
Oh shit!
So,
Rat Pack.
Nice.
Yeah,
crazy.
Nice.
That's cool.
Nice.
I was trying to get him to listen to. I got a Charles Mingus. We reorganized all of our vinyl, and I actually even as I get older too. I'm getting more into the kind of jazz that people go, that sounds terrible, and I figured out what it is. You can't. It's not background music. It's like a ride. You gotta get in the car with the musicians, and you gotta go with them. You gotta be there and focus. And so I put the record on. I got Charles Mingus. I put it on, and he's like, "Geez, what? Turn that. Oh, that's
dude." Because I'm like driving down the road. That's my ride, and her ride's like beep boop beep a doop beep boop boop boop, and I'm just like, what the fuck?
I'm like, babe, you gotta sit down and listen to it.
You also got to get your jazz hands going too.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
you gotta have the
but
cigar.
it's not all
you gotta
beautiful.
get the cigar out too.
It's not always melodic and beautiful like we expect music to be.
I like big band jazz, like old school, but they're more songs, and
Glenn Miller.
Yeah, I mean, I like that kind of
Ellingtons.
It's probably like the quote unquote white stuff, but it's like I can get behind that.
My girl's been listening to Stan Getz. I'm like, turn off that white man jazz. I just like messing with her.
Lovely, the girl from
that's so gnarly.
Goes walking. I know that one too. I like that one too.
Stan Getz. That's Stan Getz right there.
What Stan wants, he gets.
So what's next for you? I mean, do you have another film in the works, or do you plan on doing this any further? This is a great documentary. I think you got some great momentum on it.
Thank you.
Yeah, we really
Thank you.
I don't think you should stop.
I've been hearing that a lot. It was pretty overwhelming. It was a pretty overwhelming thing. I mean, I directed it, I produced it, I lit everything, I did the audio for everything. I'm kind of like a one-woman show. I did pay for an editor and then post-production. I had, hired people to do all the post-production kind of stuff, but it's been pretty insane. I kind of want to take a little time. I always considered myself, I've discovered this journey, I'm a storyteller. I like to tell stories, and I use different mediums. Sometimes I'm in a band, sometimes it's artwork, sometimes I'm a writer, sometimes I'm a filmmaker. It's really kind of where I'm at in my life at the time. It's documentaries, I loved it. It was a really cool creative process. But you suffer a lot for it, so it has to really be a story that you just are so in love with, or I couldn't imagine bleeding for it like you have to bleed for to make a good documentary, to be honest. And also, we have to get our savings account.
Seriously, I was just
We're
gonna
getting
say,
old,
That
man.
was the challenges right there.
So you wouldn't do a Nickelback documentary, is what you're saying?
Well, wait, listen. If Nickelback was like, here's a couple $100,000 and here's another $100,000. That's your salary. Go ahead. Then we'd go, maybe she will.
Yeah.
I would say maybe she will. I would not be doing shit, but I would be kicking back going.
I just think like it's just like a band. If you've only got one toe in it, it's gonna not be that great. If you want to make great art, you have to really be in love with the story that you're telling. So to me, it's I don't know if it's an integrity thing or something. I mean,
Nickelback might have a good story. There might be some bitchin' story there, honey. don't
You never know.
Don't kick Nickelback to the curb without giving them a fair shot.
Coming soon, the Nickelback story.
by Jamie Sims Coakley.
We found a new love for them.
We were almost called Quarterback. And we decided to change it to Nickelback. And it was traumatic.
I would love to make another film. I just think I need a little break. Like I'm gonna do some traveling for the next. I'm going to Machu Picchu in April.
Wow.
And then
Awesome.
going to Sri
Always
Lanka.
wanted to visit.
Yeah, next August because I haven't done any traveling, and it was like my reward. I'm like, okay, if I survive making this documentary and this record, I'm gonna finally let myself spend a little money and go see some places that have been on my mind. So that's kind of right now. And then I think, like any creative process, you kind of have to take a breath and step back and get some perspective, and then see where your heart leads you next. I'm not opposed to making another film, and I have heard that it's been very gratifying. A lot of people are like, "Don't stop, please make another film. I can't wait to see what you do next."
Well, and making music documentaries, there's always the publishing rights and of the music issue, which is a huge issue because the record labels are not in the business of giving out their rights for free. Like the guy that made that one about the Wrecking Crew, it took him so many years just to raise enough money to license little snippets of Beach Boys songs and that crap. Because there's actually been a couple. Bonnie Guitar would be one of them that we were looking into. Bonnie Guitar is this amazing guitar player. She's like 93 or 94 years old. She's in the Country Music Hall of Fame. She was a session guitar player who...
With a voice as good as Patsy Cline, maybe better.
And she had a hit out at the same time as Patsy Cline. And then
it's called Dark Moon.
She was the touring guitarist for the Grand Ole Opry, a woman. And in those days, like in the 40s or whatever it was, she's had a million careers, but she also was a record producer. She owned a record label. She signed the Ventures, wasn't it? The Ventures, and all these crazy things,
She was a badass woman when it was really hard to be a badass woman. Yeah.
But
and she was from my family's native home of Washington State. She was from that area in eastern Washington too. So there was all of these things about it that I really liked. But again, trying to track down the rights, trying to track down the music, that kind of thing. You're in it for 4 or 5 years minimum. I mean, we made this doc from start to finish and got it out in under 4 years. That's unreal.
It's really good.
And we did that because the Cadillac Tramps fans stepped up and helped us
and
fund it.
You had a passion for it too. It shows you had a lot of passion.
Yeah. Well, and I really wanted Gabby to get to see it. And I wanted them all to get to see it together. So that was something, I was like, I can't stop. Many 16-hour days.
If the recording industry would get on board with it and notice that it actually is a great tool to get your music out there, to sell some of these, reissue some of these albums that they, and if they could really do that, they'd probably fund a lot more. And I think they do from time to time, but it's so haphazard. And with Bonnie, I think her career spanned so many different record labels and so many different things. It would just be this huge nightmare. But it's a story it's a compelling story for sure. So
the last 8 months of the documentary was basically paperwork for me. It was getting all
the legal fees,
getting all of the
legal
contracts and clips licensed, and there's a thing called coverage. He's always like, don't talk about that. Nobody knows what that means. But we had archival footage, and then we had interview footage, and you use that every time somebody pauses too long in a sentence, or when you're cutting your dialogue together. You can't just leave a blank space on the screen. There has to be something to cover that edit, and people don't realize that. So you have to pull your license, all kinds of stuff to cover those gaps, and that was really that was one of the hardest things to do. And then my editor had put some clips from Pulp Fiction in the original sizzle.
Yeah, I saw that.
And we left it, and everybody said, don't worry about it, it's filtered, nobody's gonna, we didn't even know if it was gonna be a decent movie when we did that. So, it was like, whatever, we'll deal with it later. And that was like maybe, I don't know, 3 months before we were supposed to put it out. I'm like, I gotta do something. It was keeping me up at night. Like, I'm gonna get sued by Miramax. Oh my God, it's gonna ruin me. So I was walking with my son, and he's like, why don't you just try and license it? And I'm like, oh, I never thought about that. So I actually ended up, and they were really cool about it. And so there's like a little 3-second snippet from Pulp Fiction in there that I actually licensed from Miramax. But stupid stuff that you don't think of. I mean, I spent way too much money on a 3-second clip because I would have had to go back in and open up the whole cut, and
which would have cost more money.
Which
so
would have cost $6,000 to pay the editor and redo it's a nightmare. So docs are really hard for that main reason.
I was going to ask you that too, because I was going to ask you, is there anything you missed that you wish you had put in there?
No, I didn't have enough. I didn't really have enough footage.
I think people are posting stuff now. I swear to God. Today,
you should have put this in. You should have put that in.
Today, my friend Christy, I hope she listens to this. She posted like this. She pulled out all this, and she's got ticket stubs from certain shows and all this crap. And it was like, dude, we were posting like 50 million times. Hey, send in or let us know if you have some like flyers or
take pictures
whatever. Take pictures of it and send it to us and blah blah blah.
I think I just saw like a 30-minute clip about Bill Clinton saying how great the Cadillac Tramps are.
Yeah, exactly. Remember? I mean, come on, yeah.
That could have been useful.
He was like up there. He played saxophone with us.
No, but it really was like that, and all my interviews were done, and I was like ready to be cutting the film, and I didn't have hardly any archival. I had not gotten any. We didn't save. Gabby didn't save. Nobody saved anything. Johnny kept saying, I think I got a box in my garage that's got some stuff in it. I'll pull it out one day. And then he goes off on tour with Social Distortion for 6 months. And so there was this really long period where I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to finish this movie. We just don't have enough archival
We had like
footage.
a guy from Toronto who sent us some stuff. And
after the fact.
So finally I'm like, Johnny, please, will you go dig in your garage and see if you can find that? I don't care anything. I need anything. And so at some point he had a girlfriend that had made the old school photo albums. He had 3 big photo albums of photos, and he had 4 VHS tapes that were compilations of a bunch of different shows over the years that were sitting in his garage. And I'm like, just saved. I mean, It saved me. I would have never been able to do the coverage for it without that. I was still like, thank you, John.
I'll tell you that that opening live clip on the preview for Life on the Edge. It's awesome.
You too.
Hell yeah, that was an awesome clip.
Yeah, that was weird because that was like we were popular in Canada to a degree where, our manager calls and he's like, okay, the television station is going to come down and they're going to come and film your show, and then you're going the next day and you're going to load into the studio and you're going to do an in-studio. That was like that was a television show in Canada. Like we were on TV kind of crap.
Yeah.
So it was a whole different level once you got into Canada for us. It was crazy.
But that was one of those, there's the footage of them where they're skiing and snowboarding. And
that was that TV station.
But they had cut it to the, hey, we're the Monkees. And it was genius. And I'm like, I can't afford to license, hey, they're the Monkees. So we had some great friends band.
The Hula Girls.
The Hula Girls. And Brian's like, you know what, I think the Hula Girls have a song that might work. So we asked them, can we have that song?
Yeah.
And then we had to go in and recut that to it, because I'm like, there's no way we can afford to license hey we're the Monkees for this, like, and you don't not license hey you can't do that if you're going to release it on any.
It's like hey we're the Tramps.
Hey,
We're all just driving around.
Seriously. It was actually way better cut to Hey Hey, We're the Monkeys, but you know what?
It's pretty good to longboard.
You got to
baby.
do what you got to do to not get sued.
I like that you guys did that because you guys like got out what you guys did on the side. You know, it wasn't just the music. It showed like your extracurricular activities that you guys messed around. You know, because I used to love snowboarding before. So it took me back to that, you know, when you're out there working and doing whatever, you know what, let's go have fun.
Yeah.
That's what it showed to me when I seen that footage.
Well, it was weird for us because they go, you guys want to go skiing or snowboarding or whatever? And we go, oh, we don't really have any gear. And they're like, just go to the shop, go to the rental shop. And they hooked us all up. Like, you want to snowboard? You want to ski? Okay, blah, blah, blah. But then we were like, I don't even have any gloves. They go, well, look in the lost and found over here, eh? And we like raided the lost and found. So it was like, oh, I got 2 gloves that don't match and shit, you know? And then we're like on the hill and people are looking at us and we're wearing like black hoodies and shit. They're like, who the fuck are these guys?
It's like the late
and then
80s.
cameras are following us. and Gabby had 2 pairs of pants on. And the outer pair of Levi's never made it down the hill, man. He fell so many times that shit gets ripped off, completely ripped. He never went more than like I'd say like 5 feet, like boom, boom.
It's not like skateboarding.
No, Jamie Reedling was the only one who could actually snowboard and did it.
He just ditched him though.
And me and Johnny ski.
It's like he's like in the ski lift because he's like, "Fuck you, suckers! I'm gonna go snowboard for free."
I got screwed that day because I could ski kind of. I got skis. Johnny got skis. Turns out there was this country western dude he was playing shows too, so he was with us as well. But they didn't, you know, he wasn't in the film because obviously he wasn't there with us. But he goes, "Hey, let's go, man! Let's go up to the top." And I'm all okay. We all just jump on. We go up to the top to like a black diamond
At
run.
Whistler.
And Two Bags lived in Mammoth for a while. So Two Bags could ski really pretty good. And this country western dude was just like, I'm Canadian. Yeah, I might be playing country western, but I'm a Canadian. And freaking, they just like, and I'm up on the top. I literally rode down some of those, no gloves. Oh. My freaking hands were just red.
God.
And I rode down some of those black diamond moguls on my butt just to get, you know, it was like,
Not die.
they never showed me. You notice, you don't see me once in that whole skiing thing because I was just wet and pissed off. And
Hurting.
like, this is fucked. Get out of here.
You're going to feel it the next day.
Oh, man, it sucked.
So basically, you and Sonny Bono hate skiing, right?
That's right. He hates it a little more, but yeah. Nice. Take it politically. Be politically correct over there.
Also, this is probably a good way to end this interview. Brian and I are going to the Saints-Rams game tomorrow. I am a Saints fan. I'm going to ignore the flag.
Sorry.
So I hope you guys still want to air this interview now that you know the truth about it.
It's a whole different conference, man.
And you know what? I saw your post about parking.
Oh, yeah?
It's a nightmare.
Really?
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
Is
We're
it
thinking
Coliseum?
about just
And
Ubering
yeah,
all the
it's
way.
Uber.
Yes, Uber.
Yeah, Uber. Or you know what? You know, you could even
Take the metro.
Yeah, take the metro. But hey,
that's right
even the metro's got some issues, man. At certain stops along the way, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would definitely Uber it because aside from the sea of cars, you're gonna have a sea of people just everywhere. I mean, it is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous.
I'm
Yeah.
excited. Saints are doing good this year.
Yeah, they are.
They're looking so
The
good.
Rams are too, so it could be a good game.
Yeah.
Will be a good game.
We are now.
I have no
broadcasting
idea what you guys are talking about. I don't know anything of sports.
Well, that's okay.
He loves to watch home runs over there. Watch the football game.
Yeah.
See that 3-pointer? Trust me. That's
Yeah. So I don't know what kind of baseball game your guys are going to tomorrow. So
It's lacrosse.
Yeah.
What about that sports ball team we all like?
that football contest you guys are going to tomorrow.
I don't know though. He starts trying to talk to me about divisions, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. That team's here, and the other team's here. Why are they in the same division? Like,
why is Dallas in the Eastern Division? It's like, wait,
somebody
they're like
was
in the
smoking
middle.
something when they decided all that. But I think it's because the teams all move around over time or something. But it's a.
It has something to do with synchronized swimming. I know that.
Yeah,
Well, the Dallas Cowboys started out on the East Coast and migrated west.
I just stick to Kings hockey, man.
There you
LA
go.
Kings. That's my bread. That's my thing.
I would have never known you were a Kings fan. And a Slayer fan. I wouldn't know that either.
Die Hard, right?
A Kingslayer.
Kingslayer.
The Kingslayer.
That's the new band name, Kingslayer.
Kingslayer. Huh.
Seriously.
Influenced by Dungeons and Dragons.
And my
my God.
last question goes out to Joel. Who got you to Slayer?
This scumbag right here. We were in high school.
I was the music pimp of the group. I got everybody hip on stuff.
Oh, there you go. Well, yeah, because it's your dad, right?
Yeah, for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come down the pike.
He had the guitar.
Yeah, he gave me a Soundgarden tape, and he goes, "Hey, this is a band I used to be in."
I hope you use that with the ladies too.
I know, I'm very much taken.
I used to be in a band. Which band? Soundgarden. I'm the guitar player. Look.
This is me.
We should tell everybody to go to the December 15th thingamajiggy. Thingamajiggy.
That Deep Piazzas, right?
I was gonna
Yeah,
We're
stay
actually
home
we're
and
actually
watch
going to that.
Oh,
cool.
We had
that'll be
Sloka.
fun.
We had Sloka on the last.
We're
podcast.
passing out stickers and
Awesome. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, so it's December 15th. It's a benefit, right?
Yeah, we play early, like 8. So.
What's it a
anybody
benefit for?
Shriners Hospital.
Oh,
That's right.
Yeah,
That's a good
which is a
cause.
great cause
all
because
right.
you know
I guess I can show up to that.
we have friends that have been directly benefited from you know some of the good-natured people over there at the
Absolutely.
Masons and the Shriners and all that.
And we should tell you guys, if you want to see the documentary, you can see it on iTunes or Amazon or Vudu. You can stream it or buy it. And I do think that my distributor, Film Buff, is going to have DVDs. They're going to start printing up DVDs on demand for people, so we should know about that in the next couple weeks. And also, you can go to CadillacTrampsDocumentary.com, and there's all kinds of merch there. There's also the double vinyl album that we've been talking about, and then the
new
Cadillac Tramps
live.
Off Their Walkers is going to be a digital download available there in the next couple weeks too. But we're getting we're getting coffee mugs.
Oh,
I'm
nice.
gonna get a Cadillac Tramps coffee mug. I'm actually stoked about that.
Are you guys selling it out in record stores anytime?
It's at Amoeba right now,
Oh,
and
nice.
I need to go. I just have been lagging. I need to go and get it in fingerprints. Amoeba's actually got like 5 copies, or they did. I dropped off like 10 copies of the vinyl and 5
I'm
of the
gonna go buy
DVD
it.
at Amoeba on Hollywood Boulevard. So
Yeah, this guy's a hoarder
yeah,
I'm a vinyl
of
collector.
vinyl. Yeah.
it's really good.
I'm gonna
and
buy it.
The
That's what trust
artwork's
me.
amazing.
I'm probably gonna leave
So
after
good.
this and go buy it.
He wanted to ask you. He asked me. He's like, "Hey, can they bring one so I could buy it right now?"
You know what?
I would have.
We were getting ready to leave, and I said,
would've
"Do we
gave
need to
him one.
bring anything?" And he's like, "I don't know. Come on, we're running late."
I definitely would have bought it.
Yeah.
I
Well, we
would
just
do.
drop you off one.
All right, cool.
But yeah, and Amoeba was funny. I went in there and was, because it's consignment
Yes.
based, and I'm telling her, I'm like, I have this album and this DVD, and I produced. And she's like, yeah, and she's like, well, what's the band? And I'm like, the Cadillac Tramps. And she's like, oh shit, bring it in. Well, that'll do great here. So it was like funny. I'm like, I should have led with that instead of just like I'm some random person trying to sell you stuff. So, but yeah, so that's kind of cool. I actually want to go by and take pictures. I love to see the stuff in the record stores while they're still here.
And then Fingerprints is not a bad spot. I was just
love
there last
fingerprints.
week.
Yeah, I meant to get some in because yesterday was record store.
Yes, record store day.
And I just didn't I couldn't pull it off. I was baking pies and bread.
Good record stores are hard to find nowadays.
Yeah.
It's gonna be record store day
Yeah,
soon.
exactly.
It's so fun though. I
found the
never
one?
regret going in. I never regret making the trek and going and flipping through vinyl or looking at. I always feel so good when I do that. Like it's just the energy in those rooms are always so great. I go like, why do I not do this more often?
I spend
Such a dummy.
hundreds of dollars a month on them. So it's a good addiction.
It
Yeah.
is.
He goes to Goodwill stores and goes to the cave.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's the thing.
Every
man.
Goodwill I see, I stop and buy something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Because that's when you get the good deals
Oh
too.
yeah, $2 can't beat it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always find the hidden gems at the Goodwill.
I got miles at Newport for 35 cents.
What?
Nice.
Yeah, 1940 something, 49.
35 cents?
35 cents. I got from the Goodwill.
Not in Los Angeles.
In
When you pull
Linwood.
it out though, and you
Yeah.
go, and you can just
really?
tell, like, oh, this
That
person
shiny.
took, it's all
Nobody
nice, no
listened to
scratches.
this.
Then you pull one out, and it's like, this must have been at the Coakley's house when he was younger, because our album would just be laying all over the freaking floor.
He still does
Dusty.
that at my house. I get so mad. I'm like, damn it, put the records back. Put them back.
I do. I have
Oh,
layer.
I
I
had a
have
song
layer out.
idea.
Mine
I
are
had a
all
song
laid out.
idea.
Yeah.
He gets inspired, and then he has to run and pick up his guitar.
I have a thing where when I buy my record, I don't play it right away. I go to my pad and I leave it there. I let it sit there for maybe a week
Oh,
and let it be part of the home,
oh,
and then I play it.
really?
That's weird.
Yeah, it's a weird thing.
It is cool though.
Because I want it to be. I want it to be
think
fit
it's
in.
weird.
I want it to be fit in the
Yeah.
home, and then okay, you're part of. Okay, welcome.
Yeah.
Then I put-
So that
Yeah.
early 40s
Takes
record I gave you, you haven't listened to yet?
no,
Not
it's
yet.
takes it out. Takes it out for a
That's good.
walk.
Means he respects it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Takes it out for a walk.
it
Feeds
has
it when he
it still
brings
has
it back in.
the new vinyl smell.
The new vinyl smell. Boy, they try and tell you the digital sounds as good as vinyl, but I don't. I can feel the difference. There's something coming
Crackle.
off the vinyl
Yes.
that's not coming off the digital, off my
It
iPhone.
has soul. It has a soul to it.
Yeah, and he did I've been listening to stream music for a year already, and he did a mix with nothing but vinyl. He did what was it? It was an hour and 20 mix.
Mhm.
It was an hour and 20 of like all this funk music.
I want that.
Yeah, well,
I'll trade you.
yeah,
I'll
we'll,
email it to you.
we'll email you the track. It's
Yeah.
called Drumming, and it's completely amazing. But he did it all vinyl, and it sounded way louder, way clearer, just because it was just recorded from what was it, Cubase you're using?
No, I was Studio One.
A Studio One.
Actually, sorry, it was Audacity. It went into Audacity. But
From
directly
Audacity to his turntables.
from the turntables to Audacity.
Yeah.
With no editing, nothing. It was just straight, and you can hear the crackles. Still.
Yeah, yeah.
And it sounds deep, like the warmth of it to the kick when the kick and the snare hits. You could tell. People ask me, they're like, "It sounds different. What is it?" I go, "It's all vinyl."
Yeah, it's vinyl.
Is it like what do you use, like Roxio, or what are your inputs to convert it?
It was Audacity. My friend, he had Audacity. The weird thing is, my computer didn't work that day, so I went to his house. I grabbed about probably like 50 vinyl, 50 records.
Yeah.
Went to his house and I go, "Hey, man, I need to record this." He's like, "Yeah, I have Audacity, so you can record it directly in there."
So cool.
And it's all live.
Sounds great. I bet.
Yeah, I'll send you guys a link.
Yeah, I'd love to. That'd be awesome.
Awesome.
It's weird because you can put it to digital after you take it off of the vinyl, and it sounds good because the digital captures kind of what you're hearing.
With no effects.
But if they first do it on the vinyl, it's amazing. It's weird.
And it's all stuff from the 70s and 60s. So it's
Well,
it's
they were
all
spending some
original.
money to make that music
yeah.
back then too.
Yeah,
Well, they weren't
perfectly.
cheaping it out.
And not only that, they were letting the artists experiment from what they did. They weren't controlling.
right.
The producer didn't have his big thumb in the soup.
Yeah.
Like I
Exactly.
have in that mix, you guys will hear it. There's a Lou Reed song in there, and it's like it's straight from vinyl. It sounds so nice. Than from hearing the radio or CD.
Yeah,
Right.
You
yeah.
can tell the difference.
What was the band that Lou Reed was in?
Velvet Underground.
Velvet
Yeah, I
Underground,
actually
yeah.
I did. I have Velvet Underground on vinyl, and it sounded fantastic. I was never that into him, and then I picked it up at a thrift store or something, and I'm like, oh, I like this song, and then I listened to the thing, I'm like, this is great.
So let's say our goodbyes. I'm with Brian Coakley and his wife Jamie Sims. I'm Chris. This is Rick.
Rick.
I'm Bago.
And I'm Joel.
I'm Jamie.
I'm Brian.
And this is the last bit of the podcast.
Spontaneous.
Thank you guys so much for having us.
thank
It
you.
was
Yeah,
a great
thank you.
conversation.
And go out there and see Cadillac Tramps live on the edge. This dog is truly a must see. It's genuine in every sense of the word.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thank you.
You guys are welcome here anytime. If you got anything new to plug, you know.